Madam Chair, it's 9:30.
Wonderful. Well, welcome everybody to our hybrid meeting today. So I'm going to call the meeting to order, and I see that we have quorum. So we'll move ahead. So I need someone to move to approve the agenda. Okay, Jen and Daniel. And that passes. So I was getting some feedback, so my apologies for looking confused for a moment. Okay, so now I need confirmation of the minutes. So can I have a mover and a seconder for that? Okay, Anne and Alex, and all in favor? We're good with the minutes? Okay, thank you. Wonderful. So any disclosures of pecuniary interest? All right, seeing none, we'll move ahead. We have no delegations, no briefings, no pre-consultation matters, and no policy and implementation matters. So we're moving into stream 2 permits, approval through delegated authority. So we have an application for 3722 Highway 2. So I will ask staff to present this, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everybody. So the property that we're looking at today is on the north side of Highway 2, east of Joyceville Road. It is 3722 Highway 2, better known as the Wallace Fairman House. It's designated under Part 4 of the Heritage Act. And we got an application from the property owner under Section 33 of the Act to request an approval to replace their existing asphalt shingle roofing with new black metal roofing. The proposal is to use a corrugated metal roofing type from Ideal Roofing, known as their Americana panel, in their jet black tone. The property is a traditional Georgian appearance, stone house. It has a prominent location near the road. The Fairman House retains its strong rural character and agricultural roots and could be considered a landmark in this area. A corrugated steel roof is common in rural areas, particularly on outbuildings such as barns and drive sheds. And while it is not uncommon to see corrugated steel roofing on farmhouses, the age and Georgian style of the Fairman House would suggest a more traditional roofing type. In a stand-to-seam profile roof would be more appropriate. So while staff commend the applicants for choosing metal roofing over a cheaper alternative, if they intend to invest in a roof that'll last multiple decades, such as a steel roof, staff recommend a more period-appropriate design and encourage the consideration of a traditional or maybe less strong color. Condition of approval has been included to require a standing seam profile roof and recommend an alternative color scheme. We circulated this internally. The engineering staff note that temporary access and or encroachment permits may be required for work near the road. Forestry staff note that a tree permit may be required to protect the trees that are in the area, particularly from compaction during construction. It was also circulated to members of this committee. One member replied in support of staff's recommendations, and those are in your agenda package. And Madam Chair, we recommend approval of this application subject to the conditions in Exhibit A. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Leary. Okay, so I'm going to go to the committee for questions on this application. Okay, seeing none, is there anyone from the public who would like to ask a question or make a comment?
I recognize that Don Taylor has raised his virtual hand, so I'll have my attendee please click the allow to talk button. And then Don Taylor, we're going to unmute you, please. There you go, and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. I can see all of you, but I can't see myself. I don't suppose you can see myself, but so I'll just say a few words. Yeah, this application looks fine. I agree with staff that the applicants should think a bit more about the style of roofing. Ideal Roofing is fine. Their website gives a number of styles, I think one of them is the American, which they mentioned, which is mentioned in the application. They also have one called Heritage, and that would seem to be an obvious place to look. The Heritage profile does mimic the standing seam, traditional standing seam arrangement, and they have a choice of colors. I would suggest maritime gray, but there are other colors could be possible. They have a choice of widths, 16 or 20 inches. I would recommend 20 inches, but 16 is fine. They also have an option of having a flat pan between the ribs, and I would also recommend. I'm familiar with that because that's exactly the roof panel that I chose for my house. So if anybody wants to come and look at it, they can do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. I appreciate that. Does anybody want to make a comment or respond to Don in any way? Okay. All right. So with that, then, any other members of the public who wish to comment? Okay. Seeing none. Wonderful. So then we're going to move to put this forward for approval. So if I could have somebody move and second approval of the application subject to the conditions outlined in Exhibit A. All right, so I see Jen and Anne. Any other questions, comments from committee? Okay, Jennifer, go ahead. Unmute. There you go.
Good morning. I'm gonna comment less from a heritage, more from an architect standpoint. I don't ever actually recommend my clients get black roofs because you actually absorb a lot more heat. And yeah, so then you get hotter attics. So we usually tend to go with, if we want a darker roof, like something that's in a dark gray. But yeah, just as a side note.
Thank you. I think that's appreciated. Jane, go ahead.
Yes, I just would like to reiterate what Jen has said. I think a lighter color of the roof and some of the suggestions from Don Taylor are also good regarding the size, the width of the panel, the width of the standing seam, and the flatness would also be appreciated on this property. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, then I'm going to call the vote. All in favor? And that passes unanimously. Gary, I'm assuming your hand's up. Okay, yeah, okay. So, all right. Okay, so we are on to our next item of business, which is Stream 3 permit approval with the council authority. So this is an amendment to designate under the Ontario Heritage Act, the Rockwood Estates. So I'm going to ask staff to introduce the application, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I hope the committee is excited about this application as I am. This is one that staff have been working on for many, many years, and we're very thrilled to see that it's got to this stage. It is now currently 2 properties that we're looking at today, that being 730 King West, which is the Kingston Veterans Village, and a series of civic addresses that relate to the Kingston Provincial Campus and Providence Care Hospital, all located on the south side of Kings West at the terminus of Portsmouth Avenue, west of Portsmouth Village. The entire holding, including the 2 separately owned parcels, are currently designated under Part 4 of the Heritage Act. In 1975, the total 46 hectare or 110 acre parcel from King West to the lake was owned by the province of Ontario and included in a designation bylaw. The primary asylum building, Penrose, ceased operation and was vacated in the 1990s, while the Rockwood Villa, South Cottage, and Beach Grove Infirmary were renovated in more recent times. The remainder of the 19th century buildings remained vacant or used for storage and property maintenance purposes. On September of 2017, Council approved an amendment to the City of Kingston official plan to create a site-specific policy area for this property to direct future development. This included areas of future residential and mixed-use intensification and a substantial portion set aside for the Providence Care Hospital. Almost half of the property, however, about 54 acres of it, was included in what is called a heritage landscape policy category. The policy associated with the heritage landscape category directed retention, conservation, and adaptive reuse of the various limestone buildings and the cultural landscape in any future development application. It requires that any new development be, quote, compatible with and complementary to the existing land use, building massing, and materials, unquote. In 2020, a strategic conservation plan was prepared by ARA Heritage for the province of Ontario to include, and it included an updated statement of cultural heritage value for the Rockwood Asylum. The revised statement included a detailed list of attributes that included both buildings and landscape features. It also confirmed the portion of the property that represented the most intact and contributing portion of the cultural landscape. And that generally followed the OP Heritage Landscape Land Use category. In 2021, as you may recall, a 0.6 hectare portion of the property at the northern extent of the cultural landscape was severed from the total holding and sold to Homes for Heroes Foundation for the construction of the Kingston Veterans Village, this now being 730 King West. The city of Kingston at that time entered into a heritage easement agreement with Homes for Heroes in order to identify and conserve the cultural heritage value of that portion of the landscape and its contribution to the overall Rockwood Asylum heritage resource. In 2023, Infrastructure Ontario, on behalf of the province, requested council amend the designation bylaw to correct the legal description and boundaries of the designation and to clarify the cultural heritage value of the resource. And that's where we're at today. So in terms of our review, the culturally currently designated heritage property, now spanning two separate conveyable lots, is 100 acres. It contains several limestone buildings, the majority of which were built between the 1842 and 1910. Contained within a cultural heritage landscape. The property also contains a number of later buildings, including a laundry and power plant building built in the 1950s, the former Beech Grove Regional Children's Center built in the 1970s, the Providence Care Hospital built in 2014, and of course the Kingston Veterans Village built in 2023. The Cultural Heritage Evaluation and Strategic Cultural Plan that ARA prepared was prepared in consultation with heritage staff, heritage staff from the Ministry of Culture, and heritage staff from the Infrastructure Ontario. The heritage consultant outlined the cultural heritage value of the subject property, noting various features of the former Rockwood Asylum, including the broader cultural heritage landscape. The revised statement provides a detailed overview of the cultural heritage value of this resource, not only for its local heritage value, but also as a property of provincial significance. The draft bylaw before you today is Exhibit D, has incorporated the revised statement prepared by ARA. The subject property is a relatively intact cultural heritage landscape. Its two primary buildings, Rockwood Villa and Penrose, are considered uncommon and of heritage value on their own. The complex of infirmary, residence, greenhouse, workshop, storage, and other accessory buildings are rare surviving examples of the type of infrastructure needed for this self-sustaining institution. The Leahurst nurses' residence, the Beech Grove Infirmary, and the South Cottage are particular value to the property for their high degree of craftsmanship. The landscape is also of particular interest as a cultural heritage attribute because it was purposefully designed for the former asylum and its programming. It demonstrates the evolution of treatment and the approach to mental health care in Canada, the curvilinear network of roads and pathways and mature trees and vegetation, and the various stone structures such as the steps, the dry stone walls, the McLeod Basin, add to that picturesque and purposeful arrangement of this landscape. As part of the evaluation of this resource, it was determined that the entire 100-acre parcel did not contribute equally to the heritage value of the property. Portions of the property, such as those developed with the former Beech Grove Children's Center and the Providence Care Hospital, do not contribute greatly to one's understanding of the Rockwood Asylum's cultural landscape. Following the direction from the various cultural heritage evaluations undertaken on this property over the last 20 years, as well as recent site inspections and analysis, the cultural heritage landscape of the former Rockwood Asylum is, in our opinion, most clearly represented by those lands within the heritage landscape OP category, and more particularly described in a recent survey of the property. And in addition, the 1.5 acre property now developed with the Kingston Veterans Village is located in a portion of the landscape. The landscape elements and circulation pattern of the property contribute to the understanding of life at the asylum and pre-asylum agricultural era of the Rockwood Villa. However, a detailed cultural heritage value of this particular parcel is included in the 2022 easement agreement between the property and the city of Kingston. The agreement will remain on title of the property in perpetuity and can only be removed if agreed to by both parties. And so therefore the retention of the Part 4 heritage designation on that portion of the properties is unnecessary and could actually lead to confusion in the future. So Infrastructure Ontario, on behalf of the province, has worked closely with heritage staff to prepare this document that's before you, the amending bylaw, and are supportive of the amendment. Staff, we've also reached out to the owners of the Kingston Veteran Village, who have no objection to this amendment. We find that the cultural heritage value of the Rockwood Asylum can be best conserved into the future by refining the boundaries of the resource and amending the statement of cultural heritage value as proposed. The Rockwood Asylum property far exceeds the prescribed criteria for municipal heritage designation, and it is recommended that the designation bylaw be amended to bring it into conformity with current provincial standards and to help direct conservation efforts into the future. Staff recommend proceeding with serving the notice of proposed amendment to the property owners, thereby removing the designation of 730 King West and updating the statement of significance and boundaries of the designation of the rest of the Rockwood Asylum. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Leary. Much appreciated. So I'm just going to now go to committee to see if there are any questions or comments. Peter, go ahead.
Oh, thank you very much. Ryan, congratulations on all of your staff on the work that's been done there. And on the site visit, I think we very much appreciated what there is. A question, and I hate putting more work on you. There is nothing here about interiors. And certainly on the site visit, there was a number of talks on a number of those buildings which have quite magnificent interiors or parts of their interiors. And I wonder if there is any plan to try and add interior designation to this. Thanks.
Staff, would you like to go ahead, Ryan? Would you like to go ahead and answer that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would, and I think the member will be pleased. I just wish my computer would keep up with me. The draft bylaw in front of you does actually include a number of interior features. And because I can't see them because it's taking too long, I'm going by memory, but I believe the Rockwood Villa has a number of interior attributes that are included in the draft bylaw, as does Penrose Building. And I believe the Lee Hurst Nurses Residence also includes a couple of interior features. And then that would be in the exhibit, the draft bylaw, at the very end, the whole extensive list of attributes there. So yes, definitely we want to protect a few of those.
Okay, wonderful. Peter, how about we make sure you have a list of what that is? We'll just direct you to the right spot for it, okay? So Anne, I believe you had your hand up?
Yes, I did. I think there's been a tremendous amount of work put forward on this particular part of Kingston. I was pretty impressed with the site visit. I mean, architecturally, the place is utterly gorgeous, but the landscape itself is of that as well. My one comment about Rockwood Villa, I could poke my finger through the base of one of the pillars there that is rotting. So I'm hoping that some attention would be paid to that beautiful home. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. So do we know if there's any plans for some maintenance, shall we say?
I can answer that through the chair. This is Miranda Brunton from Infrastructure Ontario. So hi, everyone. Thank you so much for bringing this forward. It was lovely to meet some of you as part of the site visit. So we do have a maintenance plan for the property. I'm not specifically involved in it, but if you go through and you see anything that needs immediate attention, you can send it to me and I can forward it through to the different folks who are in charge of maintenance.
Great. Thank you so much, Miranda. Nice to have you here. All right. Any other questions? Gary, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. And just forgive me, Ryan, can you tell me, just two questions. What are we exactly accomplishing here? What are we accomplishing? And what does the future look like for this area? Are we preparing for something, or is it going to remain? It was a great tour. Thank you for that. I really inspired in such a beautiful area. Is that area to remain abandoned, or will we see usefulness in the future?
So through the chair, Ryan, if I may, I can talk to the provincial side of it. Yeah, so we did come forward. We did ask the Heritage staff and City of Kingston to revise the designation bylaw. So the benefit of this is that, you know, Kingston was far ahead of the game and has basically probably some of the earliest designation bylaws, including on this property. But they're a little bit older, a little bit out of date. So they're a little bit lacking in some of the kind of rigor and intensity that we see in current designation bylaws. So this was the opportunity to go back, revisit, add, clarify, which allows us sort of moving forward for any changes on the property, allows us the tools and the lenses to help sort of any modifications. In terms of specific plans, I don't know anything on the plate. I do know the property is surplus. So putting this together, having a designation bylaw, having worked with Ryan and crew in terms of putting together any sort of easements on the property will help for whatever happens. So if the property is sold for redevelopment, everything will be there in place to sort of help the City of Kingston navigate through any redevelopment of the property. I don't know of any plans at this time, but what we're trying to do is set up for kind of anything in the future. And this helps the process.
That helps me just to get it straight in my head. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from committee? Okay, so seeing none, anyone from the public?
I recognize that Shirley Bailey has raised her hand.
Okay, go ahead, Shirley, you've got 5 minutes.
Committee members, I'm glad to see this designation bylaw come forward, amended. It has, and as staff have pointed out, it has quite a long history. The foundation, as you may know, we expressed some concerns with the Homes for Veterans, Homes for Heroes proposal because of the impact on the cultural heritage landscape on this property. And, you know, as Councillor Oosterhoff points out, I mean, you've got a new hospital, you've got Homes for Heroes, and we know that we have a secondary plan which has been approved by City Council. So there will be more development, and I think there will be more pressure on the reuse, we hope, of these wonderful buildings. I want to follow up on, in particular, well, first of all, let me say I did go through the heritage attributes listed for regarding landscape. So they are the same essentially as what was there back in 2020. So that was good to see. However, I do see in terms of a couple of the buildings that Leahurst and Rockwood, that some of the what I would call attributes have been deleted. For example, Rockwood, I mean, where on the exterior it's pointed out that they have these 2 incredible flanking sets of chimneys. On the inside, there's no reference in terms of the interior heritage attributes to the fireplaces. So what is worded now in terms of the interior is a select surviving original interior attributes, including the main entrance, wood door and vestibule, 2-story rotunda with rose-colored stained glass dome, curved staircase between the main and second floor. That all sounds good. But when you delete the following, decorated hardwood floors, original wood doors, wood and plaster detailing in select areas, including the vestibule, rotunda, dining room, staircase, then what that does is effectively leave out fireplaces. And there are fireplaces, there's a fireplace in the lower level, there's 2 fireplaces on the main level, and there are 2 fireplaces on the second story. So, and there are similar, in terms of Leahurst, there's similar deletions, which I think opens a door for, well, to be honest with you, in terms of Rockwood, if you're only protecting that main foyer, and I don't know if the committee actually got to, it didn't sound like the committee got to see the interior of these buildings, which is really unfortunate. But if you're only protecting the main foyer, the rotunda, that 2-story rotunda is incredible. But if you're gutting the rest of the building, that is a dreadful shame. So I just would like to hear from staff. I'm sure staff have seen the interior of these buildings and what the thought process was that went towards the deletion of what we consider to be quite critical heritage attributes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Shirley. So I'll go to staff now to answer the question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's an excellent question, actually. And I would expect nothing less from Shirley. Yeah, we have seen it. Obviously, staff have been in the building a few times. I think this is where this is the role of a committee, I think, versus the role of staff that we're looking at. We as staff evaluated the flooring and the plaster and the chimneys and the fireplaces, and they are lovely. But I think we need to balance that this building is going to need a new life at some point. And in terms of its critical value and from a heritage cultural impact perspective, we felt that those weren't at a level that needed to be specifically pulled out in the bylaw. So, I mean, if the committee disagrees with us, that's your position as council's advisors. But we want to be able to protect what is crucial to the heritage value of this site, and still allow the ability of the next owner to find a use for this building. Because if these buildings don't have a use, they will sit and rot and mold. Like certain other buildings in the city that they need a use, and we want to be able to allow some flexibility for future consideration. So I don't know if I hope that answers your question, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to ask questions or make comments?
Seeing none, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right, so seeing none, we have a motion here to put on the floor so we can open discussion with committee about this application. So can I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Okay, Jen and Anne. Okay, so any further discussion or questions from committee? All right, seeing none then, we'll call the vote. All in favor? All right, and that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're on to our next item of business. Just one sec. Okay, so our next item of business is notice of intent to designate under the Ontario Heritage Act. So this is 2973 Orser Road. I'm going to take a little bit of chair privilege here and ask the clerk to remind us what our role is in the designation process, please, and what the role of council is, just so we're clear.
Certainly, through the chair. So the role of the Kingston Heritage Properties Committee is to make a recommendation either to approve or to deny to the City Council at this next meeting. So if the committee was to approve the notice of intention to designate in front of the committee today, it would be sent to council for final approval, subject to council's own deliberations. The same way, if the committee chooses today to not support the intention to designate, it will still go forward to the next council meeting where council will make the final decision. However, it will go to council as a negative recommendation. So it would be, the committee would be recommending that council not go forward with the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for providing the clarity. I just wanted to make sure that we did that as we moved forward to having this represented and discussed, given some consideration for what our job is here today, and that's to weigh the merits of what's in front of us. So with that, I'm going to have staff reintroduce 2973 Orser Road application, please, to remind us of what we're considering.
Hi, Madam Chair. Sorry, this is a matter that was deferred at the last committee meeting. It is the proposal to pass a notice of intention to designate the property at 2973 Orser Road. Our report evaluated it. The applicants were circulated, and we're recommending it be advanced. It's known as the Orser Farmstead. It's actually the property owners that the name the road is named after. And it's our understanding that it was requested a deferral for the owners to gain some legal advice on their concerns. And to date, I look to my team, but I have not received any correspondence from the owners to date, following our meeting last month. So.
Thank you. I think the owner's here today, and as we progress, they will have opportunity to speak again. But I'm going to ask if committee has any other questions regarding this designation. Okay, Councillor Oosterhoff, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. I guess I just want to, we're at a very interesting time in Heritage with what has occurred in the last council meeting. And I guess I wanted to ask if there was any progress on where I completely empathize with homeowners in this situation who experience designation related to insurance. And it's a bit of a deal breaker for me if insurance provincially and underwriters are going to be, you know, having home ownership of a heritage property, making it at a breach. And so there's lots to discuss later on as a committee related to this, but I guess I want to ask what have we learned since we deferred the property till this in a couple weeks, and what are we going to do about it for these homes that are going to line up literally and say we don't want designation.
Okay, any member of staff have some information to contribute to Councillor Oosterhoff's question? Okay, I guess Mr. Gibbs is going to be taking this one. I see your face has popped up. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. I see Mr. Prell has also put his hand up, so I'll let him speak after this. But I'll just point out that there's some information that's been provided by the province, and they have a website. And I'll just quote from that. Insurance premiums should not go up because of a heritage designation.
Yeah.
There is no inherent additional risks that should be taken on by an insurance provider through a designation. Certainly, some insurers will choose not to or raise premiums if a building is old, but that's because the building is inherently old, not because of a heritage designation. And I'll also mention, again, reading from that website provided by the province, talking about replacement of a building. Actually, I'll just paraphrase here for simplicity. If a building is destroyed or partially destroyed by fire or some other means, there's no obligation of a property owner to rebuild using the same construction methods or even using the same designs. So there shouldn't be additional costs associated with rebuilding here. And I'll leave it at that, but I think either Phil or perhaps Joel will add some additional information.
Okay, gentlemen, do one of you want to chime in? Okay, it looks like Phil.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. My apologies, I'm having some issues with my...
Okay, Joel. Go ahead, Joel. Sorry.
No, my apologies. Through you, Madam Chair, I'm having some issues with my Zoom. Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate what Mr. Gibbs has said, that the province has indicated that there should be no reason why insurance should increase as there is no material change due to heritage designation. We staff have done research into the insurance question and have done over the past few months, and have found that there are numerous insurance companies that will take properties that have heritage designations. So there should be no concern. As we said, there's no material change. There's no expectation that heritage properties be rebuilt like for like if there is any damage.
Thank you very much. Gary, do you have any other questions you want to?
Well, it's, I guess I just to recap too, that's interesting. And are we able to hear from the owner? Will you be able to speak?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
yeah, we're going to go through our regular rounds.
What this obviously is probably an spectacular property with some amazing history. How come it's taken so long to have this property designated? Like, how come it wasn't done like 20 years ago?
Ryan, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. The property was flagged in the late 90s by the former township of Kingston. It was then added to our program in 2015 when we retained a consulting firm to evaluate these properties, and we had such a mass of properties that came from that program. Council decided to list them all at that point. So it's been on our radar for some time. It's just a matter of prioritizing and moving them forward, Madam Chair, and we're here today to do that. So thank you.
Okay, Terry, I was just curious about the history there because it's an amazing property. So anyways, I probably have more questions after we hear further things. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great. Anyone else from committee who would like to ask a question or make a comment at this point? Okay, so seeing none, we will go to the public.
Ma'am, could you just repeat your name just so I have them for the minutes, please?
My name is Karen Eves, owner of 2973 Orser Road. I want to speak to the Ontario Heritage Act where they speak about insurance. I don't know the date that was done, but in current situations as of this year, our insurance company regularly inspects our property. They're satisfied it is up to date as for their insurability. And this year is the first time we've seen the word heritage designation, and that they wanted an extra $500,000 value for the purpose of insurance because of this designation. I believe they are aware of the total destruction clause, and their fear, of course, is if it's still repairable. Our insurance is unique because for agriculture, we cannot just go into any insurance company or any, for that matter. And also within the agriculture community of insurance, we are still unique. So we have limited resources that we can use for insurance. And this is something new to us. The premium that would be placed on our property would basically bankrupt us. We've had to face many obstacles lately, and this would push us over the edge. I'd also like to ask again for an extension for legal counsel. My understanding is that the expert legal voices in this matter are swamped because there are many municipalities and people looking for direction legally on what to do with this, because there are deadlines that the Ontario province has put on them, and we have not secured a legal counsel or an legal opinion at this time.
Is there anything else you'd like to add? Because you have another minute or so.
No, the property itself has had many reconstructions on it. The what's left of being original isn't a very high percentage. We also, to secure livestock, have had to reinforce the fencing at the road. And it will be done with shrubbery and trees, so the view of the house will not be able to be seen from any angle in a couple of years.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
So I'm going to go to staff to see if you have any comments or answers to provide at this particular point. It seems like we've got a bit of a unique situation here.
I can only add, Madam Chair, with respect to the integrity point that the owner brought up, staff are aware of the various changes to the property over time. And the property was evaluated and recently, and those were considered as part of the evaluation. The property still meets the tests under the provincial tests under the Heritage Act, and is eligible for designation. I would note, perhaps for committee's consideration, obstructing the view of a heritage building is one of the key reasons for designation, is to ensure that that is done so that the view is framed as opposed to obstructed in something that committee could consider in a future heritage permit. But without a designation, there's no control on that. So thank you.
There was a question about legal extension, so perhaps I'll go to Mr. McLeod to get an answer to that question for us.
If the question could be reiterated, I understood there were a number of things discussed, so I just want to have clarity on the question.
Okay. Could I ask you just to repeat your question with regards to getting a legal extension?
Yes, in seeking a legal opinion on this very serious matter, we have not been successful because the experts in the legal field are swamped by many from many different municipalities. We have not secured or gotten a legal opinion, and they keep asking us for an extension. I realize there are deadlines put on this by the province. However, we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, not being able to get a legal opinion on how to approach this.
So, and thank you for that clarification. From my point of view as a lawyer, that's a reasonable response. There's very few lawyers in Ontario who specialize in heritage. I've worked in the area for 20 years. And so I think we should remind ourselves, and perhaps one of our heritage staff can remind us what the current deadline is for having these matters of designation finalized under the provincial timelines.
Gentlemen, okay.
Would you,
so it looks like
would you like me to jump in, Madam Chair?
Yes, so
yeah,
whichever one of you will just address the timeline issue so that we know what we're sort of going to be discussing in a few moments.
The province has graciously extended their deadline to the end of 2026. So all listed properties will fall off of the municipal register by the 1st of January 2027.
So if I could take that up, and I just thank Ryan for confirming that, because I just wanted to make sure the right date was put on the table. So there is interest in making sure the property is designated. There is a greater timeline than there originally was, because I think the extension was a much tighter timeline than is now in place. The province extended that as well. So understanding the basis for the request for an extension is, shall I say, factually reasonable. It just sounds like a correct understanding of the situation. It's up to the committee and staff to discuss the particular ramifications of the request. Is there anything that we require on a most immediate basis? So I'll leave that subject to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan would like to add a comment.
So thank you through the chair. Under the procedure bylaw, items cannot be deferred greater than 90 days. Otherwise, they just go right to council for final approval. So you can't defer, for example, until 2025. You would have to defer probably at least, I would say reasonable would be in December, for example. That's 2 months extra time. That is less than 90 days. However, at this point, we are not yet at the motion to consider the item. So that's a little bit of a point till we get to that point, Madam Chair.
Okay. So with that, we'll leave that into our discussion. But thank you everyone for the answers so that we can start to get some clarity on this. Is there any other member of the public who would like to comment or ask a question? Okay. Shirley Bailey, go ahead.
Can you hear me? I've got a message saying that I'm muted.
We can hear you, Shirley.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. I just wanted to speak very quickly to the insurance issue following that very disappointing council meeting where two of the proposed designated properties did not follow through. I reached out to Amherst Island Mutual Insurance Company because they insure. We have a board member who has 4 properties insured through Amherst Island Mutual Insurance Company. So this is a local company, and we had a very lengthy conversation about the issues that are going on in the insurance company. And basically what's happening, according to Mr. Lahi, is that large companies are coming in and buying up smaller insurance companies, and people are taking these large insurance companies are taking advantage of these smaller of the situations. And it's not just heritage properties. Other people are finding that their premiums are being dramatically increased. So I think I just wanted to say, here's one example. Admittedly, I mean, we're trying to do more research to find out who is reputable, who, you know, I mean, the foundation deals with McDougall and they're a big broker, and, you know, they've been very good to us. As you know, we own a designated property down on Brock Street. So one does need to shop around. That is for certain. And the replacement value is also something that's of interest. Anyway, all to say, I would encourage these folks, and I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name, to really do some work in terms of shopping around. And even if you don't buy through them, the folks at Amherst Island Mutual Insurance Company are definitely sort of, you know, they're pro-heritage, I would say almost pro-heritage. The only thing they will not insure is automobiles. So they will certainly insure a farm. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Shirley, for the information. Much appreciated. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak? Okay, so seeing none, I'm going to ask someone to put this on the floor, please, so we can move to discussion. So I need a mover and a seconder. Okay, Councillor Oosterhoff and Jen.
What's the motion meant? Was it for to consider whether
designation
or remove? Both options. We have 2 options before us.
So through the chair, if I may. So now that you have moved the option on the motion on the floor, the motion is currently that the Kingston Heritage Property Committee recommends to council the notice of intention to designate of this property be sent out. So that is the first step in the designation process. It is now up to the committee. The committee can either approve, they can deny, or they can defer that recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so it's on the floor. So does anybody, Councillor Oosterhoff, you've moved it. Would you like to speak first? Then?
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. So came to the meeting this morning because I know I want to talk a lot about what happened at council, and I agree with Shirley. I was on vacation and trying to listen in, and I could not get a clear signal. And we have a lot to talk about there. But I also very much empathize at this time for my constituent, for one, but also for the situation. You know, I'm kind of a heritage convert. You know, I've come in here for a few years, and I've really grown to value heritage, to recognize its place, and really to dispel a lot of myths too. You know, and I'm continually learning and growing. But you know, I have a huge also to you know, I relate to I'm in construction, and I relate to the homeowners who might experience or who are experiencing designation, and it's not good what they're experiencing. And so we went through that at council the other day, though I think you know, I can say whatever I'm concerned what happened there, but I do believe that I will be moving to defer further for further information. I think that it behooves us to do that and to do some more work together to make sure this is not going to. We need to be certain. I would never support designations and putting people in a financial crisis, and I think we would all agree that is not what we're about. So if the province doesn't move and the underwriters don't give us certainty, they need certainty as an owner, as homeowners. And so that's my my concern right now. And I think that this is we don't have to get too worried about obstacles because there are challenges, because we're just going to get better from them. And so, but I will certainly be walking with the Eves family here and the Orser property and seeing how can we celebrate this amazing property that is theirs, and so that they can have worry-free ownership and not that burden of financial burden. So yeah, I will be moving at this point. It seems most obvious to defer it to the maximum time, and that we work closely with them, Madam Chair, whatever it takes to guide them through this time so that they can live there for more generations. Thank you.
Okay, so at this point, then you're going to move to defer. Okay, so we need
We need a seconder.
and we need some clarity around the length of deferral. So do I have a seconder? So Peter, thank you very much for that. Much appreciated. And so just to get some clarity, how much time do we have given our procedural bylaw?
So through the chair, I can take that question. So the next meeting of the Kingston Heritage Properties Committee is November 20th. That is 1 month. I don't believe that is the intent of the councillor to move it to just 1 month. The committee will be kind of rejigged. That's not the quite term, but there will be new membership joining in December. So I would recommend more than likely the December meeting of the committee, which I believe, if I quickly bring up my calendar here, just so I can make sure, I believe that that is scheduled for Wednesday, December 18th, 2024.
Okay, good. So that's what we're putting forward then, is a deferral to the meeting in December. All right, so now I'm going to open the discussion on the deferral. So do any members of the committee want to talk about the deferral or speak to the deferral? Okay. So I am seeing none at this point. So I'm going to call the vote on the deferral. So all those in favor of a deferral? Okay, and that passes unanimously. Thank you. So I think that that was a wise move to make sure that we're doing this correctly, and to continue to hopefully be able to move with designations. All right, so with that taken care of, we have no working groups. There were some permit approval. Sorry, my computer is not moving very well here. Permit approvals and updates from October. Questions on those? Okay, so there are no motions, no notices of motions, no other business. Okay, seeing none. No correspondence. So the date of our next meeting is November 20th at 9:30 a.m. So now I need a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair. Madam
yes.
Chair, I wonder if I could interrupt at this point. I missed amending the other business at the beginning of this meeting, and I would think it's appropriate to have noted the death of 2 past members of this committee who have been active. Firstly, Mac Gervin, who was a member over many years and an applicant often, and is well known to members. And secondly, Floyd Patterson, who, when he was councillor, was in fact in your seat as representative of Sydenham District. They're both well known to the members of this committee, and I think it should be noted with regret their deaths. Thank you, and I apologize for the interruption.
No, not at all. Thank you, Peter. We recognized, we moved a motion of condolence for Floyd Patterson last night. Did we move one to council from?
Through the chair, there wasn't not the previous meeting this week, but the one prior to that, there was a motion of condolence for Matt and staff. Yes.
Okay, so but there have been motions of condolence for both gentlemen brought through council. So, all right. So with that now, I just need a mover and seconder to adjourn. Okay, Jen and Daniel, thank you so much. That's it for now, and we will see you next month. Thank you very much.